So who's the actual man behind the famous Coach Kelsey?
Well, first of all, David, I want to say thank you for having me here today. I've formed some special relationships here in Charleston in our just over 2 years that our family's been here. And I consider my friendship with you one of them. We see eye to eye on a lot of things, on our passions, our professionalism, the way we go about our business, the priority that we put on faith and family. So I just want to thank you for your friendship and thank you for having me here today. But who's the person behind this, Coach Kelsey? There's a couple men in my life that have had major impacts on me. One is my father, Mike Kelsey, who's probably the best coach I've ever had. He's in the car business. He's a professional businessman, but the way he leads his company, the way he leads his employees, his philosophies on life, the way he raised me and my brothers and sisters is that of a coach. And I think the best coaches are teachers. And my dad was that. And the second, actually several, and the rest of them were all coaches of mine. I know you were a very good basketball player, David. And I know many of the coaches that coached you growing up had profound impacts on your life. Yeah. Joe Schoenfeld is my high school coach. He's been the head coach at famed Elder High School for almost 3 decades now. This is really cool. Coach Schoenfeld was in my wedding. He's one of my best friends in the world. He's one of my closest confidants. And I was just so blessed and lucky to play for him and learn from him. And so much of what I do and what I believe is based on what I learned from him. And another one is Coach Skip Prosser. Coach Prosser passed away about 16 years ago, tragically, of a heart attack in the coaching office at Wake Forest University. And I was there that day. And it was one of the most profound losses and had an impact on me that'll last for the rest of my life. But Coach Prosser, the things that he not only taught me on the floor, but taught me off the floor, and the legacy that he left, and the legacy that'll be paid forward is through people like me that learned from him. And now I'm to the point where I'm imparting the same knowledge, the same beliefs, the same teachings that he taught me to players that I coach today. And Coach Prosser used to say all the time, and I don't know who came up with this quote, but I attribute it to him because he's the one that told it to me. But true genius is the result of an uncluttered mind. True genius is the result of an uncluttered mind. And the last thing somebody like me needs is a cluttered mind, because I know there's such thing as adult ADD, and I don't know if I've ever been diagnosed with it, but I got it. And I just try to keep my life simple. And what I'm about is my faith, my family, profound friendships in my life, and then my passion. Yeah. Right? Putting God first in my life and my relationship with Jesus is the most important thing to me. My family, being a father and trying to be a good husband every single day and having an impact on my kids' lives and help make them better people. And adults as they move forward, friendships, profound friendships, deep friendships, iron sharpens iron with people in my life that push me to make me better. And then my passion, Coach Prosser used to say Kels. He called me Kels. Kels makes coffee nervous. That's the way he described me. I got the short end of the stick on looks, David, and I know you're on the front of the line with that. I got the short end of the stick in hair. You were on the front of the line with that, but I think you and I were both on the front of the line in passion, and the Lord gave us that in droves. And my passion is that of being a teacher. And Coach Prosser used to say, there's an Emerson quote, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that said, our chief want in life is someone who can make us do what we can. And that's what he thought his main role was as a coach and as a teacher in life, is to push people to be their best. And I think that's my passion in life. Yes, in my business, you better win. Yeah. In your business, you need to, be successful and generate revenue, or you go out of business, right? If I don't win, ultimately, I get fired. And that's the truth of the coaching profession. But that's not why I do what I do. What I'm most passionate about is helping kids get better, not just in basketball, but better as people.
Right.
So that's kind of who I am.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, and the way you were explaining it, you gave us the answer, right? Is what have you written a definition for success? Like, because I believe we all have our own definition for success, and we get distracted when we start worrying about other people's success. And you're talking about faith, you're talking about family, passion, friends. And I've seen that just in the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you operate. And I think it's wonderful. But the thing that I love about your passion is when you turn up the intensity. And I think that intensity, and I call it hustle, right? So like hustle can be a good thing. It's hustle has blessed me, right? I wasn't the most talented, but I would show up early, stay late. And but your intensity, when do you decide how and when to turn up that intensity? Because I've seen you coach on the sidelines, and there's been times like in some NCAA tournament this past season, you looked extremely just chill, extremely like not coaching too much, but the team was playing exceptionally well. But then there was other times when you can see that Kelsey vein like rolling like out the neck, and then you can see the energy of the other coaches read that situation. Like, so what gets your intensity stirred, if you had to tell me, to get you going when it's time to, okay, we got to prod this crowd here?
Yeah. There's an old Kenny Rogers song. I think it was The Gambler. In one of the lines in the song is you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Yeah.
You mentioned NCAA tournament game. In my opinion, at that moment, going into a stage like that, in front of a crowd like that, in front of millions and millions and millions of people, the last thing my team needed was the vein coming out of the net, Coach Kelsey, right? There was enough passion in the room. There was enough nervous energy. In my opinion, what they needed to see from me as a leader was a calmness about me.
Yeah.
In our cultural blueprint, what we say is in our program on the floor, what we do, we're about three things, and that's relentless effort, competitive excellence, and the power of the unit. Relentless effort is what you talked about, hustle forever. My phrase that my mom used growing up was dive on the loose ones, right? It was in that's hustle forever to me. I say to my kids all the time, dive on the loose ones. Not I hope you win, not I hope you score 20, dive on the loose ones. But we have a dive on the loose ones mentality. That's the work ethic. That's doing more. That's doing above and beyond. That's getting there early. That's staying late. And to be great in everything, you got to have a powerful work ethic. The second thing, and this is kind of what I'm talking to in terms of maybe that NCAA tournament game, the second tenet is competitive excellence. What is that? That's striving for excellence in everything you do every day and every repetition, right? It doesn't matter if it's the weight training session that's going on right now down in our weight room. It's the individual workout session later on this afternoon. It's the first rep of that drill is the most important thing in the history of our program. And we're trying to be excellent at that. What do we achieve by that? We think that you don't have to rise to the occasion,
right,
when the stakes are high and the television lights are bright and the pressure is high. You don't have to rise to the occasion. You simply have to revert to your training. Since you train at such a high level, you strive for excellence every day. I can look them in the eye in that huddle, in the NCAA tournament, and say, fellas, you were trained for this moment. Just trust your training.
Yeah.
And that was my message before that game. We wrote on the board a couple days prior. We have this idea paint. So, the entire wall is a dry erase board. And I went through and I wrote down from June 5th to March 14th, whatever it was, every day and what we did. So it was June 5th, individual workout, June 6th, workout, lift, workout, lift, off, workout, work. And I went all the way through to the day before the NCAA tournament game. And it was just for perspective purposes for them to look at it and go, gosh, darn, look at that body of work. Look what we've done. Look what we have strived for every day and the amount of time we've put in. Right. Nobody's worked harder, fellas. Now, whether they did or didn't, I don't know, but we convinced ourselves that nobody prepared harder. Trust your training. So I just tried to be But there's other times, man, where you got to ratchet it up.
Yeah.
As you know, there's a time and a place. Coach Prosser, it was funny, you know, he goes, if we're going to be really politically correct, it's not getting chewed out. It's aggressive counseling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every once in a while, they need a little aggressive counseling. They need a little kick in the butt. And that's when you see the vein come out. But I think as a leader, you got to know what your team needs at a given time.
Yeah. And today, in this day and age, I'm not so sure that, and you tell me if some of these young players that you coach, if they're showing up and they have had a series of good mentors in their life, can you see that about when they come in? Can you say, okay, this one's going to require some off-court mentoring. This one's dialed in? Because what I see is that the mentorship has not been such a priority in our young people lately. And I would say maybe we've lost sight of that, or maybe there's been too much done for them. But how do you read those individuals and then decide how you're going to minister to them or build them up as people? Because, you know, confidence is not just a part-time job and the mental thinking, right? And I love to pull out my brain, my brain, this is, I don't want anybody, just operating in the amygdala fight or flight portion. Tell my kids they get tired of seeing that brain. But how do you read that situation and then try to fill up the cup of a young man you're working with?
Well, you said it, and that you put it eloquently, and I couldn't say it better. The importance of the impact on people pouring into young people's life is crucial. Loving parents, whether it's a single parent home or double parent home, just a loving home structure with parents that love and pour into and instill discipline and build up. And it is a huge, huge, huge piece to the success of the future of our country and of the world. And not only a strong home structure and parental guidance and love, but strong mentors. There's people out there, there's children out there. And we do a lot of work, David, with Meeting Street Academy here in Charleston, and what a unbelievably wonderful organization with a mission and a cause that's to give kids in this community that have less, that come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, from low-income neighborhoods, that maybe not have the blessings that I had of a home structure and of a mom and a dad, or resources or ability to go to high-level school. And they provide that. And the principles behind that organization teach the things that are going to require success for the rest of their life. And it provides those opportunities for them, and for our guys and our coaches to go into the Meeting Street Academies and be mentors for those kids and to pour into them is one of the most passionate, important, fulfilling things that I've been a part of since I've been at Charleston. So that is huge.
Yeah.
When it gets to the recruiting portion of it, and who we bring into our organization, we're picky. Yeah. We're very, very picky because we're so protective of our culture.
Yeah.
Look, strategy is important.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy is important in your business. Strategy is important in my dad's car business. Strategy is important in the restaurant business. Who you're going to market to, what's on your menu, what type of, all those things are important for us. How we play, our offensive pace, our defensive schematics, what our philosophies are. That strategy matters.
Yeah.
But culture eats strategy for lunch.
Yeah.
Culture eats strategy for lunch. Your DNA, what you're about, what your ideals, what your beliefs are, how you operate. You go to Hall's Chop House and in the greeting and the care and the customer service, and I'm leaving out tons of restaurants and friends, and I shouldn't just mention them, but excellence is so important. Yeah. And the people make the culture, the caliber of leadership that you have. And it's important to us to identify the people that fit our culture and who we bring in. I've talked to some of your groups in that camp that you do, the soldier camp. Man, what an unbelievable thing that you do, David. You're a busy professional. People, look that up online and have your children be a part of the soldier camp and your boys with David in the summer. But we talk about the ABCs. You got to be about academics, basketball, and character. It starts with that in our organization. If you're not about those three things, we're not going to bring you in. Academics, do you care about getting your degree? Are you going to go to class? Are you going to do your best? Basketball, are you passionate about your craft? Because in Charleston, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of stuff to do on King Street. There's the beaches, there's the sun, but are you committed to your craft? You get there early, do you stay late? Do you get your reps in every day? Are you going to be passionate about getting better? And then C is character, right? We identify that. Heck yes, it's important for us to improve and grow our players' character, but you better identify it first and foremost. You got to bring guys in that are about others, that put team first, that are great in the locker room, that make good decisions, that treat people right. Why? Because we're the window, for better or worse, with which the outside world views this great, great university in this great city. Yeah. So we're going to bring people that are about that have high character first and foremost. Yeah. And then we're about these things. And these are things you can't measure, David. This isn't length. This isn't athleticism. This isn't shooting ability. It's how tough, how competitive, your basketball IQ, your ability to think the game. Do you make people around you better? Are you adaptable? Right. And then heck yeah, man, once they get here, it's about helping our guys improve. It's the overall development of our players. And in today's day and age with the transfer portal, your ability to connect, build relationships, and love on your players is very, very, very important.
Yeah, from the human side, beyond all that, which is unbelievable, how do you do team building off the court? And is that, how do you build that family culture within, especially in this day and age where you had a roster that can change so much in the offseason? Like, how do you start building that family vibe with the team? How do you instill the culture that you had rolling from last season that obviously is working? And how do you integrate the new guys into that culture through your team building?
It's a great question. So I go back to that cultural blueprint. And again, True Genius is the result of an uncluttered mind. The book Good to Great, you've probably read before, one of the best business books I think ever written. The beginning of it talks about the hedgehog concept, which is basically keep it simple, right? And so we try to keep stuff simple with our guys. And when I say relentless effort, that means go as hard as you can every time. Relentless effort, every rep's a game rep. And then the third tenet, and I said it quickly, but I want to make sure I emphasize this. It's the power of the unit. Yeah. The uncommon commitment to the guy next to you. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And what do we achieve by that? Like it's a brotherhood of trust, right? It's built on the most powerful force in the universe, and that's love. Yeah. Love your teammates. David, the first day our guys get here, and the first day of summer school on June 5th, and they all walk into the room for the first time, and they sit down, and we have our first big team meeting where we kind of unveil and convey what our culture is all about. We talk first and foremost about the power of the unit, and up on the big screen, on the PowerPoint screen, we just have one word, and it says love. Mm-hmm. Love's the most powerful force in the universe, man. It could cure everything if the world put love first, right? And the guy that did it best and did it perfectly lived 2,000 years ago, and that was Jesus Christ. It's love others. Yeah. Right? It's love others. And we tell our guys, we have them stand up and say, look, Frankie Policelli, you're new to our organization. You've never been here before. You're a graduate transfer. You're going to be here 1 year. Yeah. Rain Smith's been here for 3 years. Rain, stand up. You're a Charleston basketball player. I don't care if you've only been here for 4 minutes or you've been here for 3 years. Right. Guess what, Frankie? You've never met Rain before. And guess what, Frankie? Rain's from another part of the world. He's from Australia. You're from New York. Yeah. I'm asking you to love him. Yeah. You never met him before. Love him. Yep. Give of yourself for the good of Rain. I want you, when we get this right, when the power of the unit is truly in effect, you're working every day passionately with excellence and owning what we call your 20 square feet, the area around you.
Mhm.
not for your individual glory and accolades and scoring totals and rebounds, but it's to not let Rain down.
Right.
And Rain, guess what? You're doing the same thing to not let Frankie down. It's the uncommon commitment to the guy next to you. What we do, fellas, is what I tell them is not for everybody.
Right.
What we do defies human nature.
Right.
Heck yes, everybody in this room, David, has an ego. I tell the players. We all do.
Yeah.
You want to achieve. You want to have success in business. We want to win games and win championships.
No.
But at the foundation, at the heart of what we do, it's working so hard so you don't let your buddy down. It's like combat motivation. You heard about it. You've read books. You've seen movies. It's those guys in those foxholes. It's just, I'm fighting for my life for you. I'm not letting my buddy down. That's what we're all about. And I think it shows in our on-floor system. You come and watch us play, man. We play as many guys as anybody in the country.
Yeah.
We play a 10-man rotation. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
We ask guys to go as hard as you can,
yeah,
to exhaustion. And then when you're too tired, somebody come in and do the same thing. That's
yeah,
relentless effort.
Yeah.
And that's at the core of what we do. Love your teammates.
Yeah. And that's not a common message these days, you know? And I think lay the groundwork on that is probably why you get such great results. But then the takeaway for these guys after their career, that's a big deal. I mean, how many times have you compromised your schedule for the love of your family where you didn't necessarily have something planned, but you pivoted? You said, hey, look, that's a priority. And I didn't expect to do it, but because of that love, you changed your whole situation. And I can only imagine how hard that is, especially with media commitments and the things that you do. But I'm sure people don't challenge you when you say, because you've explained your beliefs, like, hey, you know that these are how my priority ranks. So I'd love to move into just some takeaways, you know, from Coach on if you're talking to, and it doesn't even have to be a young basketball lover, it's just anybody. I mean, because a lot of the things that you've shared with us have been fundamental to sound living. What I like to say that a big portion of what I call a successful life is a well-rounded life, right? Where you're, because I didn't think my basketball career would end, right? I guess I thought I'd play forever, but that was a hard transition. But the life lessons that now bless me outside of the basketball arena have been, I feel, a gift to the priorities of my family and the churches and the things that I work with. But what would you say if you had to just, because people can't remember hardly anything these days, if you had to boil it down to 3 or 4 massive takeaways for people to say, I need to contemplate that. You know, I think love is the one I'll go ahead and say that I picked up, that I don't think we talk about love enough, and we forget that love has a lot of different ones. You know, sometimes we hear love, we get lost in the physical romantic side, but you know, love is agape love. You know, this is agape love. This is brotherhood. This is Philadelphia, filio love. I mean, this is when we look out for each other. But aside from love, what are some things that people can, hopefully young people seeing this could ponder?
Yeah. So here's what I say. And you and I talked off air before this, and I wanted to try to give some concise bullet points. And I think the first one that I talked about was simplicity.
Yeah.
Right. Keep it simple. Identify the things, because there's an old coach named Don Meyer, who was a D3 coach, but I'm telling you, in coaching circles, he was absolutely famous. Passed away several years ago. Has written books, DVDs all over the place. And he said something one time along the same lines, that it's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's the same thing for your life. You could try to be the master of a million things, but I think being great in the thing. So keeping it simple. And I mentioned those simple things with me, and that's faith, right? Family and friendships, and then my passion. And that's what I try to keep my focus on in my life. So that would be one, right? Keeping it simple. 2, and this was probably, I'll show a picture, a painting here of Coach Prosser, who was my mentor, my college coach. That's me and him. That's one of my most prized possessions, is that painting right there.
What a great
my brother
painting
gave to me. And out of all the things he taught me, I think the thing that resonates the most, and this is the thing that is recited to our players the most, and you've heard me say this because I said it to your soldier group camp when I spoke to them, and that's to never delay gratitude.
Yeah.
Never delay gratitude.
Yeah.
And that's such a simple statement, but I feel like it's so profound.
Yeah.
Never delay gratitude and just being appreciative for having your feet on the ground today and having air in your lungs.
Yeah.
Having God in your heart, right? Never delay gratitude. And you could just, it's so easy to find all of the things that are going wrong. Hey, guess what? It's 100 degrees out and our AC broke at home. It really did yesterday. or in our kids' lives, our players' lives, stuff happens, circumstances happen. Heck, when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, feels like your world's ending when your iPhone cracks.
Oh, buddy.
Girlfriend breaks up to you, and social media, you find out some friends are doing something here when you weren't doing anything. Stuff happens. But man, if you start with gratitude, parents at home that love me and an opportunity and food on the table and people in my life, gratitude, never delay gratitude, saying thank you, being appreciative. That's huge with me. If you ask the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students and little kids that have come to the Charleston basketball camp, and I started to say, never delay, they would all yell at the top of their lungs, gratitude.
Yeah.
So, that's really big with me.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And I think that even the most mature of adults can forget that. I wake up in the morning and I let my left foot hit the floor and say thank, and my right foot hit the floor and say you.
I love it.
And every morning I do that just to remind myself that because you mentioned ego, we can get extremely self-absorbed with things that aren't going flawlessly well. But for me, I think the journey of self-development and self-improvement, like the journey can be just as fun than the destination. And what we find sometimes is when you get to the destination, then you're like depressed because you're saying, now what? What's the next ring to grasp for? Where you could already have the ring on your finger, the moment you wake up. So I think that perspective is great. Gratitude. Anything else that kind of sticks out to you? Because that may be hard to top that one.
I mean, I would say the next kind of big thing that I try to practice in my life is, and the way I say it, the way I'd say it, that's probably politically correct, is don't judge.
Yeah.
Don't judge. But the term, and I got this from Coach Prosser, because the world in general, there's a tendency for us as human beings to talk about others.
Oh yeah.
And that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm the farthest thing from perfect, David. I am as flawed as anybody in the world. And in fact, this is the quote, and I live by this and I believe in it. Coach Prosser used to say, we're all screwed up in our own way.
Yeah.
We're all screwed up in our own way. I'll never forget hearing him say that one day. And we as a coaching staff were in there and we're complaining about something.
Yeah.
Talking about somebody in the department and it didn't do this. And we were mad and he's this, he's that. Coach said, fellas, we're all screwed up in our own way.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. And my kids, you probably say certain things to your kids and they roll their eyes. Oh, okay, Dad, we heard it again. But anytime there's talking behind somebody else's back, and so we're all screwed up in our own way. Own your own weaknesses, right? Those people have good in their heart. They're about good things. Find the good in others and don't judge. That's something that I really, 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 really believe in.
Yeah, and I think the biggest myth is this comparison game. Like the comparison model is completely broken. And your fingerprint, even if you had an identical twin, your fingerprint would be different from the identical twin. And I think that it's different for a reason, because we all have something that we're bringing to the table. The challenge is building the confidence in people to be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I am really good at this. And I tell my kids, if you get affirmations on the same thing a few times, you may need to spend some time of discerning that affirmation. Like maybe you're trying to get a message that maybe I do need to explore this, right? Like maybe I do. Why did I get that compliment 3 times in 3 months? Maybe I do need to explore that. And I think we're really good at, and you talked about culture, and I deal with some organizations that we have to build culture, and but just as well as I do, it only takes one whisper in a team to start creating that cancerous environment of sabotage if you start to gossip. And it's very interesting. So I'm sure you kibosh that, when it comes across the desk. And sometimes we have to just remind people of the love, the beginning of the season love conversation. We just have to redirect, right? But I hear you on that. I think that's a great one. Don't judge, right? Just, I think if people say, well, what about competition? What about competition? And you must think about competition all the time. You're scouting teams, you're trying to build strategies because you're trying to get the edge, but there's also sharpening, and you mentioned up front, iron sharpens iron, focusing on what you have, putting on the horse blinders, and just trying to be the best version of yourself. And that in itself can just, then you don't have time to gossip, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that trust built amongst the constituents in your organization, that love, we make it very, very apparent. I say it to them. One of the worst things you can do in our program, we say outside lying, cheating, or mistreating women is what we call BCD. Yeah. And I got this from, Focus 3 is the name of the organization. Tim Kite is kind of the philosopher or that wrote the book. I read it in a book called Above the Line, which this Tim Kite wrote with Urban Meyer. Yeah. And they say BCD is to blame, complain, or defend. Yeah. Right. So we say, and my kids, again, sometimes when I say it to them, they go, Dad, we're not your team. I go, you are my team. Yeah. I mean, my basketball players, but you're on my team here at home. We don't BCD. That's and right. BCD, a lot of times, blaming, complaining, defending, can manifest itself in body language. Yeah. Right? And so that's something that we're very vigilant on.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let you go, but I am going to ask you about just because I love taglines and mantras and little hacks to remind yourself. That's why the hustle forever thing for me is so important. Even putting it on the sleeve of my shirt, it just reminds me, you've got to stay grounded in the principles that are important to me, the faith, family, fitness, business, community. But this our city thing, the first time I saw this our city word, I mean, I wanted to just, beat my chest. I was like, wow, that talk to me about our city, because when I hear that, I mean, I want to tear away the basketball pants, say, put me in, coach, but talk to me about that.
Well, at all the places that I've been as a head coach, so I was the head coach at Winthrop for many years, and I always wanted to have kind of a rallying cry. Yeah. Right? So you think of Alabama, what do you think?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. If Alabama fans are walking down the street, they look at each other and they say, Roll Tide. Yeah. We are at Winthrop. We're in the city of Rock Hill, South Carolina. So we came up with the idea of Rock the Hill. Yeah. Rock the Hill, because that's what we wanted to do, man. We wanted to make Rock Hill rock. Yeah. And we would create this connection between our program and the city. So in 8 years, it got to the point where it was all over the arena. We'd walk down the street. I'd see students and we'd yell Rock the Hill. To this day, I see Winthrop people in the airport and I see them like, hey, Coach Kelsey, and we'll say Rock the Hill to each other. Yeah. So I wanted to have something like that here in Charleston that connected this magnificent city. I mean, one of the most dynamic, wow cities in the country that's passionate about the College of Charleston. And guess what? They're passionate about hoop too. Yeah. And we wanted to connect this unbelievable city to, I think, the sleeping giant, College of Charleston basketball, built by the great John Kress. Yeah. I believe one of the best college coaches in the history of the game. Brilliant. Agreed. And a legend, by the way. Agreed. And everybody talked about what that gym was like. And you probably went to it growing up. The little gym that would just rock, and it was hot in there, and it was a beast to play in. So we wanted to create that back. And I think in 2 years, man, we've done that. We had sellouts the last 12 games of the year. I talked to a guy after the season that spent $700 for 3 tickets for his family on the secondary market. I hate that it's that expensive, but that fired me up. And at the press conference 2 years ago, we came up with the idea of our city. Yeah. And that's my deal, man. When I see fans in public, we give them a big our city, and I love it.
Yeah, man. Well, that's it fires me up. It fired me up before I even really knew the backstory of it. I was just like, wow, what a great tagline. People can buy into that. Like, don't make a sentence too long for me. It'll be hard for me to remember anything, but I think that's fantastic. Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough for being here. What's the best way for people to follow the Cougars this season?
Get season tickets. There's not a lot left, man. They're going fast.
Yeah.
I think it's the best show in town. King Street on game night is rocking. You come once, you'll come again. Tell your neighbors, tell your family, be a part of College of Charleston basketball. You can get tickets on our website, College of Charleston Athletics website. We'd love to see you at the 6. We call the arena the 6, TD Arena. TD is short for touchdown, even though it's TD Bank and 6 man. So come on out to the 6.
I love it, man. Thank you for being here, Coach. You definitely are doing a fantastic job. I appreciate your friendship. And we'll have plenty of notes on this call so people can remind themselves and come check out the Cougars, because definitely it's going to be our city this season. And thanks for all that you do for me, both personally and professionally. Can't thank you enough for coming to talk to Soldier Week for Boys. One of the greatest talks we had all week. Thank you for everything you do, bud.
Thanks, David. Our city,
man.